it's been a day. Thank you all so much for being here with us tonight. And oh, the little gray thing's covering it. So Stacy or Karen, do you want to put the tiny URL? There it is. The tiny URL to follow along with the slide deck is at the bottom. If I try to copy it, it's going to cover it up. On tonight's agenda, we're going to do a quick check-in for how you're feeling. And then we have the famous Dr. Matt Rhodes here to present to us today. And then we're going to do a quick town hall around Jamboard and discuss future meetings. But I'll let Karen and Stacy also say hello. I don't need to hog all the talk time.
No worries. Hello. Hello, it's Wednesday. Glad to see everybody.
Yay! And I'm Stacy Klein. I'm a teacher and an instructional coach in the Santa Ana Unified School District. I am a Google certified trainer and co-leader with the amazing Becky and Karen, love them, for GEG SoCal, and a co-leader, like many of you, in global GEG. So we're really excited, and we're so grateful that Matt could present tonight. And we're so grateful for Becky for making the connection.
Yes, super excited. All right, Karen, do you want to walk us through our how are you feeling?
Surely, sure. So when you go, if you click at you guys have the slide deck, and I can put the link to the Jamboard in here too. But you're going to go to my fabulous Jamboard, and you're going to tell us how you're feeling by taking a sticky note and putting your name on it, and then put it by the duck that represents you today. I'm all about ducks tonight. I'm going to warn you, there are 2 duck activities. I don't know why, but I got in the very ducky mood. So go ahead and let me know, which duck are you? The proud floating duck? The, oh, I'm standing up, but I could lay down duck? The I'm diving under the water duck, or I'm just totally a flat duck, can't handle life? Deflated duck.
I'm loving this duck activity.
I guess you can feel more like one. If you want, you can share why you chose the duck mood that you chose. If you want to put it on a sticky note or put it in the chat, that would be fun. You don't have to. You're not obligated to tell us if you're feeling flat, why you're feeling flat. I like how people are changing them. Like, which one am I really? I think ducks represent us the best, especially rubber ducks. For real.
Yay, Shannon Bitmoji represent.
I think that's me too. I'm down there. I'm down there with my head in the water duck.
Grades were due
It's only
today.
Wednesday, and that's the week.
You're writing another book?
I just got my virtual course set up for my district, and I finished it yesterday, and I'm like, oh.
Nice. Should we go on to the, I like
Yeah,
that.
I got some election anxiety too. Yeah, go on to the next page. So now this is a little fun activity here. Here the group has to work together, okay? So we have fact, we have fiction, and down at the bottom we have sticky notes with things about ducks. They could be real, they could be not. So you can put them in. You can move them where you think. If you don't agree with somebody, you can move it out. You can start a conversation. Just another way to use a Jamboard.
Someone said ducks make great pets. Have you had a pet duck? Our neighbor had one. It was so mean.
And this is how my week is when I get really into finding weird facts about ducks on my notes. So that's just indicative to where my brain's
I had a pet chicken, and that's a duck's cousin.
Let me dive in. Oh, really? Huh.
But a chicken gives you like eggs. Mm.
This is very interesting.
Ducks give you eggs.
That you eat?
Yeah. I don't eat them.
What do you guys think? Are you all in agreement? Do you agree that all of those are true facts and that everything that's fiction is fiction?
Sure.
Yeah?
Ducks
As
is
a
I
group?
don't have enough background knowledge on ducks.
I know, who does, really? Well, I do. I actually do. I have a lot of knowledge on ducks now, but you can use this little activity anyway. I just liked the idea of having you have to sort, having you have to work together. We could have done something that might have you use your brain more, but this seemed much more fun. So I will tell you that ducks do not live in Antarctica. That is actually the only place that they do not live. So that is fiction,
I was thinking it sounds kind of cold for a duck.
right? And ducks
Wow.
don't have 360-degree vision. They actually have 340-degree vision, just so you know.
Oh, wow.
I know, interesting, right? And duck quacks, they do echo, so that is fiction. Ducks can turn off half their brain. Ducks can turn off half their brain. Is that not crazy? I'm telling you.
Is it because they don't sleep? They're the type of animal that is always partially awake, like animals in the ocean?
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
So you too can avoid work and learn about an animal like a duck. So ducks never get cold feet. That's true. Ducks never get cold feet. That is a fact. And ducks do eat rocks. That is also a fact. They get minerals from rocks and they eat them.
I've heard
I
that.
figured that was true, but I didn't have enough background to like disagree with somebody because lots of birds do that. They have to use
Yeah.
the gravel.
You are now sorted correctly. Yay. And ducks don't see only red, but they don't see all colors, but there's more colors than just red. Not that I'm bragging about my duck ability, but awesome. I get you warmed up for the big show tonight.
No, I loved this. I loved that too. It was like something, I don't know, maybe some of you are duckologists. That's not a term, but like actually know all of this. But for the most part, that was nice. Thank you. Uh-oh. Okay. I'm clicking every button.
One of them will work.
So now for our amazing guest speaker. I love the gift you found too. Matt, we're gonna let.
I found the gift for you there, Karen.
That was awesome.
We're gonna let you take it away, Matt. I'm gonna stop presenting and let you share your screen if you want to, or.
Yeah, definitely. I have a whole presentation ready. If you guys could just join in this link here, I'll share my screen and you guys will get some interactivity. We're going to use Pear Deck, but we're going to use all sorts of things in this presentation. So get ready to go on sometimes when I do trainings, they call it Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to share my screen now and we'll get started. Let's see. I'm going to do this way instead. I got like 3 monitors, so I'm just figuring out which one I want to do. All right, here we go. All righty, so everyone join in. We'll get started. And then everyone, I would prefer if you guys could be on the Pear Deck screen because then it gives you hyperlinks to everything. So that will be the best going forward, I think. And I'll just share you guys' responses on the Google Meet. So I'll go back and forth. The focus of tonight is really on engagement strategies, 1, and 2, instructional models that we can use to for navigating the toggle terms. So essentially what that is that as you see, schools have started online or blended learning and have had to go between multiple settings throughout the school year. I also talk about light toggles, which is when a couple classrooms or a single classroom have to move, whether teacher is quarantined or whether the students are quarantined and they have to switch online or partially online, or concurrent, which is teaching both at the same time. So really going to talk about these models and how you can really plan for that and utilize instructional strategies for these types of situations and scenarios. So if you guys could, this is just today's agenda, just looking at various types of just really easy strategies that you can implement in any sort of educational setting, and then focusing on just the toggle term instructional models, how does it work, and how can we structure lessons around that. So if you could, click on this link here. It says click here to access the success skill generation activity. So I like to do this with my students, grad students. I think we all can learn from each other, and I think we're all big on Twitter and just love doing that type of work. So any type of training that I'm at, I'm here to learn from you, and you're here to learn from me. So, and I first like to have, teachers or students take ownership for their learning. So if we read the objective and look at the success skills, I would like you guys to think, just based on the objective, what type of success skills can you take to personalize the learning for you tonight? So teachers will be asked to evaluate various instructional strategies that are integrated with ed tech tools, in addition to analyzing how they can toggle between online, blended, and socially distanced classrooms. Then I gave some example success skills with my mentor text. So go ahead, write your name, and then just brainstorm for a second, like what's a success skill or 2 success skills that you can utilize that you can take away, you feel like that you would want to take away from this. So go ahead, I'll give you a couple minutes and I'll see you guys start filling that in, and you guys will see how you guys are doing with your success skills and where everyone's at and what everyone wants to learn. So go ahead, you guys edit.
Matt,
Yes.
could you give us edit access?
Oh, you guys don't have edit access. Hold on. I think I did share only. Hold
You're
on.
good.
Change viewer. Perfect. All right, you guys are set. And generally what I do afterwards is I lock it, and then once you guys have the slideshow, you guys can go back and see all the documents that you guys edited and can see each other's responses. As I think it's just really powerful that we all learn from each other, because there's just so much. You guys are all experts in various areas, and I think that it goes a long way that we can learn a little bit from everyone and apply those things to our practice strategically. So that's what I tell a lot of teachers and my teacher candidates. So start seeing some responses. I can evaluate EdTech tools. I can understand the best steps to take when toggling between distance learning and hybrid learning. I can use my EdTech tools to understand how students respond in various instructional settings. This is awesome. I'll give you guys about a minute and a half more. And this could be set up in your own presentation in your class. It could be like even just asynchronous playlist where you have this is your first little bit, you have the success skills, and then they go into, whether it's a front loading activity for the next asynchronous playlist option. It's just something that I like to do to front load and just start my lessons. And sometimes this goes after social emotional learning, just really, to me, it depends on the audience. So once you guys are done writing yours, you can obviously look at your colleagues. And I like also to use the strategies you're going to notice later for a lot of different activities. And I utilize a lot of different tools with this. So Draw can be used, Wakelet can be used. This can be used with so many different tools available. So, and it doesn't matter whether if you're a Google district, Microsoft district, to use a strategy like this to begin. So about 10 more seconds. Engaging lessons. Engage and collaborate. Awesome. Okay. So let's move on. Here we go. So I like to do SEL every day. So with my students, I really focus on self-care, especially around the election time. And a chapter in my new book that I'm running is on self-care, and it's especially teacher self-care and strategies to help us. And I think that not only students, but teachers need to focus on building our social emotional skills. So I think the first one is self-awareness and utilizing a template like this on Pear Deck, or you can even use a Google Slide or PowerPoint where students use draggables. It's definitely, I think, something that is really important to do as we are in a difficult time. So I always recommend to my student teachers as well as teachers I'm working with. I think, I'm Maslow over Bloom, and I think that a lot of people can agree with that. So give you guys a few more seconds. And sometimes I like to use, when I'm on Zoom, I use my iPad and I do it myself and I model it for my students. And I talk about like I feel language and whatnot. And today, for example, I did an activity like this, and then we jumped into a flip grid where they had an opportunity to explain in about 30 seconds to a minute how they were feeling given the climate that we're in with the election. And I felt like that was a powerful activity because it's a private channel between me and my students. So I really like the SEL. So I'm going to give you guys about 10 more seconds, see where we're currently at. And I always tell my students, like for SEL, no one's ever perfect. If you're within that 4 to 8 range on the self-care chart, then that's great because it's always fluctuating. And I really think that, showing the students' responses like empathy and self-care is huge. So, generally it's across the board depending on, who it is. But I like to use these types of templates. Pear Deck has a number of them, but I really kind of like dig and try and see what's available because, I use the social media ones like the TikTok ones, Instagram, etc. as well as something that I can scaffold with this as well, especially at the very end of the week or at the beginning. So that definitely gets my students going. So let's talk about some strategies. So as I said, like mass brainstorming. So I want to learn from you guys right now to see kind of where we're at. So we're going to do a very similar activity as what we did for our success skills, but we're going to focus on different types of tools. You guys are all using different tools. You guys are integrating Google at all different levels. And you guys are all doing things differently. So everyone has an editor on this one. So I want you guys to think about like a tool and strategy that you are using and how you're integrating it together, and then just how it's practiced in the classroom. So for example, I just did, social emotional learning. You can do that with Pear Deck, Nearpod. You can do it with Google Slides as well, PowerPoint. I call it feeling identification plus explanation is a strategy. So I want you guys right now to just write maybe a strategy that you did today in the classroom or this week that you'd like to share, and what are the tools that you use and how you integrated it, and a little short explanation about how it's practiced. I really think that these are the types of things that we can do to learn from each other, and I think that our students are sometimes our best assets for learning in the class, and just kind of talking about, for example, when we're doing like math or English or world history, providing really like kind of real world current scenarios that they're going through in their lives that we can apply those concepts to. And these types of activities allow us to provide some open-endedness, and I think that that's something that is a good practice, especially to create agency. So Jamboard, Adobe Spark, I've loved playing with that and using mentor text with that recently. That's awesome. Spreadsheets. this past week, we did a data analysis on spreadsheets and graphing on spreadsheets in my algebra class, which was a lot of fun. Definitely required a lot of scaffolding and whatnot, using a lot of different screencasts, but it was powerful. Google Slide Jamboard, Nearpod, and Zoom. Schoology, Pear Deck, and hyperlinks. I've been playing a lot with Pear Deck recently with embedding code into the URL option and creating like more immersive in VR environments like you can on Nearpod. Although I think it takes a lot of practice, and there are the tutorials. So I think an activity that I really liked hearing today, that I thought about doing tonight, was putting in a VR of an electoral map, but I just didn't have time to put it in. But yeah, this is great, guys. So about 30 more seconds. Yeah, Zoom, just a Zoom chat check-in. That's great. And I think where we're currently at, and this is going to segue into a lot of the conversation tonight, is I think a lot of us are to the spot we have a ton of tools, we know the applications, but it's time for us as educators to really focus on integrating, like, what are some research-based instructional strategies that we know that will enhance student learning that we can utilize with the tool. I think that that's really the next step of a lot of the professional development. And then on the Pear Deck, I want you guys right now, what are your 2 or 3 major takeaways from the mass brainstorm? Just looking at your colleagues right now, what are just, in 1 or 2 quick bullet points, what are just some ideas that you were able to take away? And the strategy that I'm using here is we brainstorm and then summarize. And that's a really high level on, if you look at John Hattie's work, the effect size rate, summarization is about, I think, 0.75 on the scale. So it's quite high. So brainstorm, summary, that helps ingrain into our long-term memory. So I'm going to give you guys now about a minute and a half, and I'll share those responses on Pear Deck.
Am I supposed to see other screens?
So you can either see the Pear Deck responses on the Google Meet, or you can on your Pear Deck screen that you're on, that you're writing on. When I show the responses, you'll be able to see that as well. I tell my students to, unless I tell them I'm modeling something, for example, like on an iPad where I'm drawing on a sketchboard, or for example, I'm modeling like how do I get from point A to point B, I tell them, hey, I'm on Zoom or Google Meet. I'm going to show you how to get to this one spot. Or I'm going to say, hey, I'm doing this problem right now. Can you look on Meet or Zoom? And I'm going to sketch this out for us. But otherwise, I tell them stay on like Pear Deck or stay on what the presentation slides that we're focusing on, whether that's Nearpod, it could be Mentimeter, etc. So I'm going to start showing some responses in about 10 seconds on the Pear Deck. PBIS Nearpod, interesting. Tools have so many uses. It isn't about tool, it's how we use the tool, 100%. What Michael Fullen has always said is that the strategies and the teacher is the driver of the tool versus the tool itself. Kahoot, yes. Kahoot's gone so much better, by the way. I remember in the dark ages a few years ago, Kahoot literally was really basic, and it didn't have like the integrations like with sound and YouTube. The other day I was really surprised at just how much they've done. So yes, the VR has a place to place people in a foreign place and promote agency understanding. Yes, I love that. And I like to use VR for quick writes. It's a great way as a hook to move into a quick write or any sort of like activating prior knowledge. All right, so since we don't have breakout rooms tonight on this Google Meet, I know that Google Meet was integrated recently, and I know that we all may be on different platforms, so I'm not sure of, how much you guys used the idea of Think, Pair, Share before the pandemic, but I've always integrated it with interactive slides or Google Slides, for example. Different pairs are labeled a slide. And I think the Think, Write, Pair, Share after a quick write or any sort of intro activity is huge. And we can do it now just on any platform. As you can see, the tools that are compatible for it. So, for example, we would have, this could take 10 to 15 minutes. It really does depend. It can even go quicker depending on who your audience is. And I usually just, when I create the breakout rooms, when we go into the pair shares, I either can do it strategically or I can just do it randomized. It just depends on the group of students that I have. But I'm going to just go through some of the steps that I like to do it on Pear Deck or Nearpod or Mentimeter. So first, I have them think. We want to have them do the covert thinking before we get into having any sort of discussion. So I usually do like quiet time, 30 seconds. And then for us, I had a prompt of like, how are you integrating instructional strategies with ed tech tools within your setting? And then provide 2 to 3 examples. So we would wait 30 seconds. And then what I would have you guys do on this slide would be to start writing. This would be your individual written response before you would share with your partner, or it could even be a small group of 3 people or 4. I never have anything more than 4 in any sort of student collaboration or group activity. Anything bigger is too much, especially in a distance setting or hybrid setting or high flex setting, usually 2 to 3 max. So the next one really is the pair discussion. This would be an opportunity for them to, I wouldn't change the slide until about 2 minutes into their conversation and say, all right, now, since you've read each other your responses in the Pear Deck, then we would then have them think about paraphrasing each of their students' responses. And then the next slide, as we can see here, would have them create their own response together. So we would integrate and combine both of their thoughts in their own responses. And as a teacher, I can see on the teacher end, whether they're actually integrating their responses, and I can provide them feedback, which is great about Pear Deck or a lot of these platforms now, is that you can give them active feedback just covertly by putting in text. I wish we could use, for example, like an app like Moat within Pear Deck or Nearpod, or we can do it in slides, which is great. I've been using that so much recently, but I wish I could I could mute myself while they're doing the collaboration piece, and I could just comment and give them that that verbal feedback. So they would develop their response, they would paraphrase, and then create their own response. And then basically, I would close the rooms and we would return. And then either I would use my equity sticks or spinner to call on a student, and then their group would go. And then I would share, probably 2 to 3 responses max before moving on. And this usually leads me into either a probably modeling or an asynchronous task. Does anyone have any questions about Think, Pair, Share, Think, Write, Pair, Share? Anyone have any questions?
Not a question, but a comment on this, and I was throwing it in the chat. This is something that we focused a lot on with our English learners. Oh, gotta go take care of that.
Yeah, and she was saying this is a great strategy for English language learners, students with special needs. If you want to hit all the elements of UDL, Universal Design for Learning, within a lesson, I think that this is one activity where you can hit multiple areas, which is, I think, powerful. So I really think that's important. And what I like about Pear Deck and a lot of these other tools now, I'm going to reiterate this a lot, is the immersive readers have really improved, and they are in almost every single tool now on the student end. So I try to make it a routine of showing my students where the immersive reader is located and how to access it, because I think that's truly a game changer. If, for example, just regardless of what grade level, I think just having the opportunity to listen and read at the same time helps build comprehension. So I think that you guys all have different levels of graphic organizers, make them interactive. I think I really like the idea of adding different elements within the graphic organizer, like multimedia and GIFs and memes and that type of thing. And I think Google Draw is a great tool to do that. And I think Jamboard's a great opportunity to do that as well. Padlet. I want you guys to look at, if you could click on the Wakelet example. If you guys could click on that. Let me know if you guys are able to edit. If you guys can edit the collection, that would be great. And what I like to do with the Wakelet is I like to use this to, I provide an image at the top. And this is like, it could be used for essays, or it could be used for just a math problem that I want to pose. And what I have students do is that when I edit the collection, and I'm going to share my screen on this tab real quick instead of the Pear Deck. And I'm going to go on to Wakelet. So with the Wakelet, if you're editing the collection, and I think a lot of you guys may use this tool, is I really like just having to add notes, and then just a multimedia piece, like tweets. YouTube can even do a Flipgrid. You can tell students to do so many different means of interacting with this, and it's super easy to share, and you can create your own repository of Wakelets of just in a unit, or you could do it within just a single week worth of lessons. And I really like just this idea of doing the same thing like we're doing on Google Draw or Slides, but using like Wakelet's a tool, because I just really like how easy it is. Once you have the ability to edit the collection, it's really cool, and can add things from Drive and images, bookmarks, tweets. There's just so much that we can add just outside of text. So I usually have students, we break it down, notice, wonder, or know. I really like doing these types of graphic organizers to build prior knowledge, and you can do the same strategy with like KWL charts. There's so many different opportunities of doing this with Wakelet or Draw or just Jamboard. There's so many different things, and I personally I think that we're to the point now you can just select one of these tools and just use it for the entire school year of just whatever you personally prefer the most. So yep. Yeah, this is great. I just really like this tool, and I just been using it so much recently. So I'm going to transition back to the Pear Deck. And I used a lot of these types of things when I was teaching English before I was teaching math. And I like to, I'm sure you guys are aware of, Digitat Textbook. There's just so many good ones that are integrated with Google and whatnot there. And I'm going to share a resource of that in a few minutes with Jamboard. So I know that you guys wanted to talk about Jamboard tonight. It's one of the themes I wanted to add a slide about it. So just some ideas of just Jamboard, just strategies that really are engaging as well as high on the effect size for John Hattie. just all these different ones that we can do. And it just really depends on who your audience is and what you're trying to do. And I've included, I think the biggest, one of the biggest databases on Wakelet I've seen for a tool recently, and it's the Jamboard one. And there is absolutely, it goes on forever. So I just wanted to give this to you guys. I know that that was the theme of tonight's meeting. So you can probably go down a rabbit hole there quite a bit. So I just highly recommend checking out those resources and then just thinking about like how are we going to integrate these strategies within the Jamboard. I mean, I think like with Draw or Slides, Jamboard provides a really easy place to do that, and I really like the integration with Google Meet, and I think that's been game changing. So you guys can respond real quick. Is maybe you guys have been using Jamboard longer than I have. Jamboard's relatively for me has been newer, so if you guys could, it'd be interesting to hear how you guys are using. I love the Ducky example. I saw something similar to that with on Draw recently. So I thought that was cool, just its inception on the Jamboard. And then just I like that the Jamboard and the calculator equal can be integrated together for doing equations and higher level math. So I think that was a really cool resource as well. So, and then the DigStat textbook Jamboard templates are awesome too. There's just so many places now where you can just get a sweet template and then just slide it into your Google Slides to integrate, whether you want to use slides or any sort of interactive slideshow. So I'm going to show you responses real quick. I've used it annotation, speed dating. Oh, I love the speed dating strategy. It's a great strategy. We use it for everything in elementary school. Attendance, check-ins, brainstorming. We're doing try challenging problems. Does anyone know how many users you can have on Jamboard at the same time? I've capped out on a lot of tools with my license at like 75, 80. Does anyone know how many users?
It just changed. It's now 50.
50? Okay, that's quite high. But yeah, I've had a problem with a number of trainings I've had where I've had so many people on one tool, it crashed. So I always ask questions of like, if it's a new tool, like how many people can be on this at once without it having major issues, or just people can't edit it because there's so much, there's just so many people on it. So we're moving on just to part two. Just this is a toggle term instructional model. And to me, I think that in order for us to navigate, I mean, we could go until 2022, 23, depending on where we live. We got to be prepared, and we got to, instruct newer teachers as well as veteran teachers, to teach in multiple settings, because that's going to be the reality when it comes down to it. We're going to be hybrid. We're going to be online from times. There's going to be times, possibly depending on the district that you're in, you're going to be concurrently teaching, which is teaching online and in person at the same time. So we have to really focus on, okay, what's going to work in all these three settings, and so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we toggle. We want to create seamless toggles, and that's the purpose of a lot of my work this past year is, okay, how can we transition really seamlessly without having to stress and change our teaching? Because when we think about when we move to a different setting, even if we move to a hybrid setting, we're in a socially distanced classroom, and that looks completely different than a classroom pre-pandemic. So you got to think about like what's transferable, and I have a couple options for that. So I just am just curious. We have, an audience from a variety of different places. I just wanted to ask real quickly, what setting are you in? I gave 4 options: online, hybrid, concurrent, and a lot of the country, especially in the Midwest, are just in socially distanced classrooms with a little bit lower cap. Currently, right now, as it stands, 52% of the country is hybrid, and it's around 20-ish% online, and that's really situated in just mostly urban areas on the coast. I wrote a recent blog about this, and I have a really cool map on it. If you want to check it out later, it shows the entire country, all the teaching models, what's going on with COVID. So most of us are online still. And I think that if you're in Southern California or an urban area, we have started at the elementary level. It's in my county starting to come back in person. I think secondary in a lot of places, we're going to stay online for the entire year. I don't think that in many urban places, especially on the West and East Coast, large high schools or even middle schools will go back in person just because the sheer number and the logistical challenges. So I see where more of the hybrid will take place, especially in these high urban areas, is at the elementary school level, charter and private, as well as some smaller middle schools. I think that's what it'll look like. And as you guys know, the trends look that it's getting worse. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like. But I can tell you guys, most of the toggles we've seen, the vast majority of them have taken place in places that were hybrid to start the year versus online. There's been many instances of online moving to hybrid, but it's not as much as the hybrid that started the year are going into online. So this is the toggle term instructional model. So basically what it says here is that we can really move back and forth pretty easily if we have our online instructional infrastructure, which is our LMS and several tools that we have, as well as our content creation like Google G Suite or Microsoft 365. And if you look at the in-person versus online instructional strategies, you'll notice that they're extremely close. And basically, when we revolve back and forth or in a blended or online setting, we can really focus on these strategies right here as our key set for synchronous and asynchronous online instruction. And then I included the HighFlex, which is the concurrent, where you're teaching both in person and online at the same time. I mean, you're essentially can utilize a lot of the same strategies. The hardest part is about the concurrent model is that you're managing 2 settings at a time. And what a lot of, if you're tech savvy and you're able to multitask well, then you can do it without having to go too crazy. But when it comes down to the vast majority of teachers that are going into the HighFlex and concurrent model, especially in the elementary level and early middle, it's the most demanding instructional model I've ever seen. So in my book, I say that the HighFlex or concurrent model should only be used temporarily for about 10 to 14 days as a light toggle occurs where a teacher or students in that same classroom are quarantined for short term. And then just some ideas of just how this can be structured and just some ideas for lessons. For example, if you're in a situation where you have students in person and online at the same time, and you're going between A and B cohorts, I call it HighFlex Lite, where you meet for about 10 to 20 minutes together for synchronous at the beginning of the lesson, and you focus on whole class instruction, social emotional learning, warm up, review the activities for each cohort. They could have a choice board, and then they go. That's generally a good idea, I think, for middle school through high school. And then I like to think about, a lot of this asynchronous instruction when we're focusing on hybrid and blended learning to be focused on choice boards. I like tic-tac-toe choice boards. And then just provide just some various options down here. This is just one of the many examples I have, just suggestions for these type of models, because I just want, everyone's different. They have their own districts. They have their own structures they may have to abide by. So I just want to give a lot of options within these models, because I think the flexibility is the key factor in focusing on these, certain strategies within your different frameworks. So, and what's great is just I alluded to at the beginning is that in the new book that I'm writing, I got a whole chapter on probably 6 to 8 of these templates and planning templates for all these different settings. So that was my big project this past week, was to finish that blended learning, concurrent learning chapter, and it's focused on lesson planning for these types of models. So I'm not sure how much you guys know about Catlin Tucker, but she's she's probably one of the most famous educators out right now that's talking about station rotation model, which is a form of blended learning that can be used in blended learning scenarios. And I just kind of give a structure right here of a lesson that you could do for a blended learning class that can also be used online, because we have to think about synchronous and asynchronous. Synchronous can be in person and online live. It's the same, it's synonymous. It just depends on what setting we're in. And then asynchronous can be literally the same thing, whether it's online, only, or, in person asynchronous, or, hybrid asynchronous where you're at home for the day versus being synchronous live in person. And then just idea of station rotation, as I mentioned earlier, is that I like the station rotation model a lot for elementary hybrid because you can do a lot of the synchronous instruction is for the modeling piece, checking in, intervention, etc., and then moving to an adaptive ed tech for asynchronous home, like iReady, Achieve 3000, etc. Those type of tools are great, and then focusing when you're in person in class and on collaborative learning, and then you could focus at home more on independent practice as well as adaptive tech. So it can be that rotation model. So that's one really way that we can think about this. And then just some ideas, just some instructional strategies that can toggle. Just I do, we do, you do, think, write, pair, share, ideas of metacognition, self-assessment, just using adaptive ed tech to personalize learning and to target strategic interventions, front-loading content on Edpuzzle, Nearpod, even asynchronous Pear Deck, student choice boards assignment, personalized learning through HyperDocs, slides, project-based learning, digital portfolios. I have a presentation in a week to the GATE, OCC GATE, and I'm going to talk a lot about how we can use Wakelet for digital portfolios for GATE students as extension activities. So I think there's a lot of excitement with that, and Google Sites can be used digital portfolios, WordPress. I'm having my teacher candidates right now create digital portfolios to focus on being more of a reflective educator, as well as building it to, building their own brand and providing some information about themselves, which will eventually be used once they're in the hiring pool and just further on, so that they can share it with, Twitter, Facebook, etc. So they can be learners and they can be sharers. So you guys saw mass student collaboration. Then at the very bottom, I noticed it got cut off when I'm sharing on Meet, is that what are some ideas that you guys have regarding instructional strategies that you feel that you're using that can be translatable to online and blended learning situations. I'm just curious some of your ideas as well. So go ahead and I'll give you a few moments to do that. Oh, I love the flipped classroom model. Yeah, I didn't mention that one that as much. I should have put that in the presentation. I love the flipped classroom model, especially for secondary. And if you have a tool like Class Relay or Bloxy where you can view your student screens from home or your classroom, you can see them on the school's device and you can strategically say like, hey, is this student where they need to be? And then you can provide them a hyperlink of where they need to go or record their screens. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little much with it, but I think it's when we get to more hybrid learning. All right, let's start sharing some responses. I think reflection, yes, essential at the beginning and end of lessons. Yeah, I highly agree. I think self-efficacy is such a huge piece of the learning, and I think the reflection and metacognition piece is huge there. Stars and stairs can be done on any platform, any setting. Set their goals and share their stars and strengths. Steps need to reach their goals. That's awesome. That reminded me of gamification of Classcraft. Feedback on every assignment, yes. And I hope that you're using, if you're an English teacher, I recommend using Motes. You can 30 seconds of free voice feedback that can be used as it also gives closed captions. So I think that's such an amazing tool, and it saves your wrist from carpal tunnel. Success criteria, good. Fast and curious, and the curious. Reflection, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so there's a lot of different strategies that we can do in a lot of different settings. And if we have the tools in both those settings, which we do with the devices, then a lot of things can be really transferable. And I think that that is something that we should really focus on telling teachers that we are working with, is that a lot of what we're doing right now in online, or even if they're blended learning and they're going to go online, if the cases go up in that area, is that it's not something to be super intimidated by, as long as you want to maintain a lot of the same structures. I mean, obviously when you're in a hybrid, you're going to have a different structure for synchronous time versus asynchronous time, but in terms of how you're delivering information and content, it's really, if you keep it simple and you think less is more, then you're going to be in a situation where it's not going to be overwhelming for yourself or your while you're teaching it to your colleagues. So I like to finish my lessons with my student with a slide like this, summarization / reflection. And I talked about several times where it's one of the highest levels on Hattie's effect sizes. We can have our students be reflective learners and summarizing their learning. We're setting them up to be more of a lifelong learner, because when we're thinking about information that we're seeing and hearing, when we're going through our minds and we're conceptualizing it, when we summarize it to ourselves, we're putting it into what we personalize it to be. And then if we can have the reflection piece, that's the lifelong learner piece, where we can, further our learning, and we can seek out more information if we want to by assessing what are your next steps. And that could lead to research or contacting people within your network, colleagues, etc. So give you guys a few minutes to do this, and this is pretty much will just follow up in the Q&A. And I'll share you guys' reflections. And I like the drawing. I like the drawing. I love when students do the drawing. And part of this too, at the very end, is an instructor, I think, utilizing a strategy like this is, how can you improve as well? Is that, depending on what your response is from your students, that can dictate like how are you going to monitor where you want to go next. I like how Mel put Z's. Yes. All right, I'm going to start sharing. I love when people sketch. It's great. Wakelet. And then a question, when you're using a tool for the first time, how do you introduce it? I think I like to utilize a strategy of I do, we do, you do the most when I'm integrating a new tool within whether it's my students or whether it's teachers that I'm working with, because, I think that scaffold is, I've been successful with it, and it's worked at all levels. So that's generally what I like to do. And then I like for the you do section of the scaffold is really to focus on exploration and something that they can contribute to the group. So they build something of their own, and then they contribute it to, a mass, whether it's a Google Sheet or a doc where they can hyperlink their presentation or whatever they're doing with the tool, that they can share it with someone, in their district or school, and that creates agency. And I do the same thing with my students, that are in gen ed and then have special needs. How do people balance their lives? That's a good question. Depends on what you value. But when I was writing the self-care chapter that I was just recently working on, is that I focused a lot on, what are things that can lower our stress, and what are things that can help bring our passions out and purpose, and like what are those things that can motivate us. And I also focused on social emotional learning for teachers as well as leaders in education, and ways that schools and districts can really start implementing that. And also, a big part of the chapter was talking about how do we step away. And this is something that I struggle with. That's probably the biggest thing I struggle with. When do I step away? When do I, especially when I'm passionate about a project? And so I mentioned a lot of that too. Next steps. Sharing what my district is doing. Good. Collaboration. Do teachers follow up with students to understand which ed tech tools they love? That's a good question. I've used a survey with my student teachers, and I've talked to students at my school site about like which tools they like to use the most. But it'd be interesting to hear from others what that would be. So thank you guys so much for this opportunity. Really grateful for this. It's always great to share with a group of educators that are willing to listen and wanting to learn. And I'm also learning from you guys as well. You guys are a lot, experts in your own right. So it's just definitely something that is a blessing that it's, when I'm presenting or when I'm in a presentation, that it's great. So I really do appreciate it. Just some links if you want to contact me. My website my first book. My second book is coming out in late January, early March, from Codebreaker Publishing, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be a really extended version, rebrand of the first book, and it's going to be, I'm including narratives from teachers from around the country and leaders, and it's going to be it's going to be, I think, it could be a game-changing book that really can help us navigate this time. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. And it was just nice to be able to hear from each other throughout. So I really like the Pear Deck presentation. Thank you for coming and sharing all of your wisdom. And you are on Twitter. So I know you're easily accessible on Twitter. If you have additional follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. I know Matt will respond. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, guys.
All right. It's a noisy one here tonight. So we're going to dive in. If you're all okay, we're going to dive into Jamboard Town Hall next time when we do extensions. Is that all right with everyone? And so today was actually really nice because we had a little bit more playtime in Jamboard with both Karen's warm-up activities and with Matt's activities within the Pear Deck. So thank you both for demonstrating those. Our next meetup, we're going to change the date from being the first Wednesday of every month to now be the first Tuesday of every month. And so I hope that works for everybody. If it doesn't, please reach out to either Karen, Stacy, or me, and we can try to find something that works for everyone. Unfortunately, the first Wednesday of the month just doesn't work for me. So I hate to change it on everyone because of my schedule, but it just doesn't. It's really hard. And then oh yeah, Karen, do you want to talk on this?
So we were thinking for our December meeting, because it's holiday, that we want to hear from all of you. So we want you to fill out this form, share your favorite extension or your add-on, and let us know if you would be willing to share it at our next meeting. We really like to get it more interactive, let everybody have a piece of it, and make it, a fun, festive meeting where all of our members get to have a chance to share why they are using what they're using and how they're using it. So if you would fill this out, and I will be emailing it to the group too, so if you don't have a chance to do it now, don't worry, you will be getting it in an email. You'll have plenty of time before December 1st. But I do encourage you, please, to share.
Yes, thank you. So then we will be meeting on December 1st. Oh, first Tuesday of the month is also the first day of the month, so that's easy to remember. We'll keep the 7 o'clock time, and then hopefully we get to hear from all of you on your favorite extension and just like a quick, brief little bit about that. But otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us. We'll get the recording out to everybody. Thank you so much, Matt, for presenting. And if you all know anyone who wants to present in the future, please connect us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you.